Hey, well, I think we will get started just so that we kick off on time. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the eagerly awaited second webinar of a two-part webinar series about the new US Cosmetic Compliance Requirements in the US, presented by Global Victoria in collaboration with Austrade. I'd first like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which you're meeting today, the peoples of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here with us today. Thank you all for joining this session today. My name's Lizzie Moffat. I look after the beauty and wellness sector for Global Victoria, the state government of Victoria's trade agency. We also have with us here today my colleague from Global Victoria's New York office in her beautiful MoCRA hat, Mildred Rose-Lille, and also my colleague from Austrade's New York office, also in her beautiful MoCRA hat, Anjali Jain, or AJ. Both Millie and AJ look after the consumer goods sector for our respective trade agencies. And you'll see there, most importantly, our guest speaker has just popped up on the screen. Welcome, Angela. Angela is our very special guest speaker today. Many of you would have heard her speak during our first webinar late last year. Angela is the Cosmetic Industry Practice Group Leader at Amin Talati Wasserman. Now, in our first webinar held last year, Angela gave us an overview of the changes to the Act, so the Modernization of Cosmetics Act. We covered a lot of ground in that session. Angela shared detailed information about US enforcement stakeholders, the definition of cosmetic under US law, MoCRA key definitions and timelines, facility registration and suspension, product listings.
Sorry to interrupt, Lizzie. We have a message saying that people cannot hear. I just want to make sure the sound is working properly for everyone.
Okay. Can those listening online, can you just pop in the chat if some of you are able to hear me?
Okay, yes. Apparently it's working. It was just that one guest.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Millie. My phone's going crazy now. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
No probs. So as you know, Angela did cover a lot of ground in that first webinar, and she's been kind enough to offer her time to join us again to walk us through the new FDA submissions portal, which launched it was earlier this year or late last year. I can't remember the exact date. Angela can note that, but that is the reason the second webinar was postponed until now, because it was due to open. The timeline got pushed a little bit, so we pushed our timeline. Anyway, I know that everyone is here to not listen to me, but to hear what Angela has to say. So I'm going to hand straight over to you, Angela, to get started. Thank you. Oh, you're just on mute.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I am so happy to be here today. Yeah, as Elizabeth mentioned, the portal didn't open up until I think it was like the 28th of December. Not exactly a lot of time to make that December 29, 2023 deadline. However, the FDA did announce that it's exercising its enforcement discretion to delay enforcement until July 1 of 2024. So although the legislatively mandated deadline of December 29th, 2023 is still in place, the FDA is not going to be enforcing these product listing requirements or registration requirements until July 1. My suggestion, however, is that you get started now, right? I have noticed with working with the portal myself that there are certain times of the day and there's certain days of the week where it's just much slower, or where I get error messages. Where things just aren't really working. And I think it's because it happens to be that there's thousands of people that are also trying to do it at the same time. And so today, what I'm going to be sharing with you is really the practical application of what do you do? How do we do this? Can you do this yourself? Do you want to have somebody in-house handle it for you? Or are you going to hire an outside consultant, like such as myself or someone else, or to do this for you? And so this is going to give you an idea of how the portal works, how quick it is to use or how slow it is to use. And then it will, that way you can make some informed decisions of what you want to do. So
just jumping in there for a second, Angela, I think there's a few people who still can't hear.
Okay.
Can you just pop in a chat if you can't hear, please? And I just want to, I don't want people to miss out on this. So 2 seconds. Tina can hear. Yvonne, can you hear? No, it seems to be okay. So no one's popping in the chat there. Oh no, I think just one guest. So I think we'll carry on, and Yvonne might try and call in from her mobile. Sorry, Angela, carry on.
That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And normally I would only share like the window I'm actually using. Well, actually, maybe I will. So it might be a little like jumping back and forth, but that's just because, I am an attorney. And so I do often have things in the background that are confidential. So I'm going to try to be very careful not to accidentally share anything that I shouldn't be sharing. So first of all, our presentation. Is that the right window? It should be. All right, let's go to our slideshow.
We can see that now.
Okay, wanted to do that. All right, so it should be the title page. Do we see that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, good. Elizabeth already went through those key elements, so I'm not going to cover them again. Of course, if there are any questions during this presentation, please go ahead and raise your hand. I won't be able to see that you raised your hand. However, Elizabeth and the team will be monitoring that and let me know, hey, we have a hand raised, and read, and then you can ask your questions. Because I really do not mind, having this be very interactive. I'd rather not just be a talking head on your screen. So anyway, so here is the updated timeline. This will look familiar. I shared a timeline previously, and so I just kind of slid in this July 1 deadline for the cosmetic listings and registration requirements. Something I would like to emphasize, though, is that the professional use labeling requirements, the safety substantiation record keeping requirements we discussed last time, as well as the adverse event record maintenance and serious adverse event reporting obligations are all live. Enforcement delay did not occur on those. So please understand that those all went into effect December 29th of 2023. So if you have any questions on those, I'm happy to take them. All right, so as we had talked about last time, we had some new FDA authorities that were added in, right? We had the mandatory recall, the facility suspensions, the records access, and then we had the new requirements for the cosmetics industry. And these are the slides I sent you, right, Elizabeth? Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. I've done this presentation so many times that I started thinking, were these the right slides? Okay. So facility registration, as a reminder, and we are going to get into the actual practical application. So you must register within 60 days of first manufacturing cosmetic products that are going to be entering the U.S. market. So keep that in mind. And then, so that means even if you're already registered and you're starting to manufacture a new brand and you know that they're going to be going into the US market within whatever time frame, you want to make sure that you go in and you register, you update to make sure that you're identifying that brand within your registration so that you can make sure that you are compliant. The other thing that you want to make sure of is that you keep this, the biennial registration requirement in your calendar. So every 2 years, you have to go in and make sure you have to kind of re-register. It might just be a matter of, okay, just resubmit, you haven't had any changes, Or you may need to go in and check to see, okay, well, do we have any additional brands that we're manufacturing now? Or maybe you know for sure that you're not going to be manufacturing for a brand again, and you remove them from your list. So, that's things to keep in mind. And then also, since you're not in the United States, if you're registering a facility, so you're a manufacturer, you do have to have a U.S. agent who is physically located within the United States to act as that communications liaison. Most businesses that offer these type of U.S. agent services, it's generally like a flat fee per year. It can range from, I don't know, $350 to $600 a year, depending on just what they're doing. Because it's not like they're having to do stuff on a daily, weekly, or even monthly basis. They really are just there in case the United States FDA has to get a hold of the facility, such as for scheduling and inspection. All right. Now, what are the requirements? So very basic requirements. These are the mandatory ones. So you need the facility name, the FEI number, the address, name of the owner, an email, a phone number, the U.S. agent, and then the brand name and categories and responsible person. Sorry, that should I say also responsible person for the brand names that you are processing at that facility. Here's the instructions for, how do you even have an FEI number? Most companies do already have an FEI number. And so if you want to check whether you already have an FEI number, because that's a number that's provided by the FDA when there's any kind of interactions between the FDA and a foreign facility. So that could simply just be that as the facility, you've shipped something, that's gone through customs and your name was on those records. Well, then you probably do already have an FEI number. So this is how you would go in and search to check for that. And if you do not have one, these are the instructions for submitting a request. So you just simply email FEI Portal at fda.hhs.gov, and you provide this information right within that email. It takes I've seen it take as fast as 4 days to get an FEI number. I've seen it as slow as like 2 weeks. So it just kind of depends on how busy they are. So this is something I suggest if you are a facility, so you're manufacturing or processing cosmetics, this is something I suggest you do, after you get off this webinar. Okay, there are two options for facility registration. You have the electronic submission, or you have the paper submission. For paper submissions, I recommend the paper submissions in one circumstance, and that is where you process so many brands at your facility that you're just like, there is no way I can do this, via the electronic portal, and I'll show you why later. And it's regarding just how many brands, because in the portal you have to go in and individually identify the brand, the responsible person. Then you have to click on a link, and then you have to click on each of the categories that particular brand, that you process for. I have some clients that have, a list of 500 companies that they manufacture for. So, and each time you're doing that little entry, it takes about, I don't know, a minute. I mean, not a lot. It doesn't take long to do, but when you've got 500 of them, that adds up. So a paper submission may be a best option for companies that are in that situation. Otherwise, I highly suggest the electronic submission because it is just so easy, and I'm going to show you how easy soon. Okay, so product listing, here's those key points that we discussed previously. So you have the responsible person, and you may remember from part 1. So who is the responsible person? It's that entity who's named on that product label in that name and place of business statement, right? So it's, if you're not the manufacturer, then here in the United States, it would either say distributed by company XYZ with your address, or it would say manufactured for company XYZ and then the address. And if you're the manufacturer, it would just simply have your company's name. Let's see. Now, the deadlines for product listings is a little different than the manufacturer. You remember on the manufacturer, it was 60 days. Well, for product listings, you have 120 days from first marketing the product within the United States. so not if you're marketing at other places, but in the United States, that you have to do the product listing. And the updates, instead of every other year, you only have every year. So it's every single year you have to update your product listing information. That would be any of the information that's in that product listing, and you'll see soon that that would be your the company name, phone number, the products that you're selling, the ingredients.
We do have it. We've got a question about that actually,
yeah.
Angela.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, my oh lordy, my Teams is acting up. Millie or AJ, can you see that question? It's just disappeared for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
The question is, can a website address be enough for the responsible person?
So under the name and place of business requirement, you have to have an address. It doesn't have to be a domestic address, but you have to have a mailing address, something that somebody can get a hold of you at. Under MoCRA, you'll recall that we talked about under part 1 that there's a new requirement that goes into the effect at the end of 2024, December 29th of 2024. And that's that requirement that there be a domestic address or a domestic phone number or an electronic address like a website or an email address. So it's one of those 3, right? It's disjunctive requirement, so or. But that doesn't replace the prior requirement that the name and place of business has to include an address. I see Tina has her hand up. Tina Coplin.
Just give me a minute there. Yeah. Tina, are you
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Sorry.
Hey, Tina.
Hi, how you going, Angela? Look, sorry, I can't use the chat. I've no idea why it won't let me chat. It tells me it's only when available during the meeting, so I don't know what's going on. But my question for you is, I missed the first one of these. I was ill and I couldn't attend. I've received the slideshow, but is it possible to actually get the actual web thing that you did? Because there was some information about small businesses, and I think that we are under the terms of this. I think that we come across as a small business into the US, but it didn't go into great detail in the slides, but I believe that you actually talked about it at length in the actual presentation. So I'm just wondering, is it possible to get an actual copy of the presentation, not just of the slides from last time?
I'll jump in there. Yeah, we've got that available on the Global Vic website. So I'll send you the link to that, Tina, after this.
Thanks very much. That's brilliant, Lizzie. Cheers.
I am going to talk today about the products that routinely come into contact with the mucous membrane of the eye. So we're going to talk about that. And that is, I've found that the small business exemption discussion, that seems to be the #1 question from most of my clients. So we will talk about that. Okay. What I will also point out is that a single product listing, and this is something that even my clients who I'm doing listings for, they tend to keep sending me like this entire product list or these an Excel spreadsheet that I've provided them, but they have like every different size and every different color of these same formulations. And then I go in and I review it and I'm like, no. Remember, single listing suffices. So whether a product is being sold in multiple sizes, or if it's the same base formulation and the only change between different versions is the fragrance, the flavor, the color, or the size of the boxes, right? Just those aspects. So if those aspects are different between different versions, then it can be a single product listing. And I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so the basic information that is required, it's pretty simple. Name of the company, right? So that's responsible person, phone number, the cosmetic product name, the category for that particular cosmetic product, the ingredient list for that cosmetic product, and the FEI number for each facility where the cosmetic product is manufactured and processed. So that would be if you have the formulation is stirred up in one facility and then it's shipped to another facility and it gets poured into bottles, and then it gets shipped to another facility and it gets labeled. Well, those first two facilities would be considered facilities under MoCRA's definition for a facility. The last place that just the labeling was put on, or maybe the tube is put inside an outer box, that's just packaging, repackaging, relabeling. That does not count as a facility under MoCRA, and it would not need to be included in the listing. But those two first ones would have to be included. And I'll show you how you put that into the facility. So because I have confidential information in my portal, I'm not going to show you the initial login, but this is the page that you're going to see. This is the website address where you would go to, direct.fda.gov. If you do not already have an account, say create new account and do that. Pretty simple. I think we all are pretty used to having to create various accounts at different websites, and then you would log in. The next page that you would see once you are logged in is down the left-hand side of the window. You will see all these different options. And you'll notice up here at the top, it says establishment registration and drug listing. That is for drugs. That is for OTC drugs and prescription drugs, just drugs. Okay, so if you're not doing drugs, don't go into any of those. Right? That'll take you to the wrong place. It'll give you a bunch of different stuff and you're going to be like, whoa, what? This is so different. Instead, you need to go down, down, down to down at the bottom where the red arrow is. You see cosmetic registration and listing. And depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a cosmetic product listing, you would press that. Or if you're registering your facility, you would click that. There's also a number of self-help resources available that are below that cosmetic registration and listing. And that's what you see here on the right. It was, too big to put it on a single slide. And those are really good resources. So I do suggest, if you're curious, to go ahead and, click in there. You can also right from this homepage, you see this under the UNII search, and then it says, go back. It says FEI search portal. You would click that, and that's where you can search for your FEI number if you don't have it. You will have to create an account to do that. It is a separate account from this FDA Direct. So to recognize that, pretty much every site that FDA has, if they're not within one, they do require different logins. So. Okay,
we do have a question here for you, Angela, yes. From Judy. How do you get DUNS number when you are not a US entity? Sorry.
You know what? I can after we're done during the Q&A, I will go in to the place where you can do that request and show you. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So then once you log in. And you click that cosmetic product listing option, you would then have either search for product, right? So maybe you've already done a listing, or you do create new upload file. And so you would say create new upload file, and then you would say create a new cosmetic product listing using a blank form, or you can import an existing cosmetic product listing SPL. That's a lot more complicated. I don't recommend it. I can show you all how to do that today. At the same time that, right when we're doing the DUNS one, I didn't think of putting that in here. So anyway, so then you just say create a new one, and now I'm gonna walk you through actually creating a new one. So I'm going to stop sharing momentarily so that I can bring up that page.
Lucky you're good with technology.
Let's see, did I do that right? All right, do we see the FDA Direct?
We do.
And it says cosmetic product listing?
Yes.
Wonderful, I just want to make sure we're on the right page. All right, so this is what a cosmetic product listing looks like. This is just a draft one that I created. Because if I was to take you into back, you would see all the different companies I've created for, and that's, I can't share that. So super easy. These numbers up at the top under document types, these are auto-populated. You don't have to do anything there, so don't worry about that. And when you're doing this first one, you just keep the version number. It stays at 1. In later years, as you're doing your annual update, you would change that number. You'd say, okay, it's year 2. It's the end of 2024. or 2020, actually you wouldn't need to do the update now since you're doing your listing. You would do it next year. So you would just change that to version 2, you would update your date, and there you go. So is this product listing for a small business? No, we're going to pretend it's not. What type of business is it? Well, if you're not the manufacturer, maybe you package, so you would collect packer, and then you would say you're the distributor, right? So responsible party, today we're Austrade webinar is its responsible party. This is my phone number, my desk number. So there we go. We put in a phone number for us. And then these two down here, parent company name and responsible person, those are optional. So we skip them. Why give the FDA additional information? That's right. It's optional. So, and then you just simply say add products, ingredients, and facilities. So I've already clicked one, this add products, and that would take me to this page. So here's a fake product, right? We're saying the name of this product is Superior Lotion. Do I put fragrance in this product that I list on the ingredient list as fragrance? Yes, this lotion, this Superior Lotion has fragrance in it. So I would just click in here. If I don't list the word fragrance and instead I'm actually listing out the various, maybe they're essential oils that the fragrance comes from, then I would just say not applicable. All right. And when I say not applicable, it will actually remove it from the ingredient list once I get into the ingredients. But so for today, for this little practice thing, we're going to say that there's fragrance in it. Then we're going to go into manage categories. So I clicked on that. And is this big enough? Can everyone see it big enough? Elizabeth, is it big enough on your screen?
Yep, it's big enough on my screen. Thank you.
Okay.
While I've got you, we did have another question if you want me to fire that at you now.
Yeah.
What about a brand that uses contract manufacturers? Are we a manufacturer in the portal?
I'm sorry. So you're a brand, you don't do the manufacturing yourself?
Correct. They use a contract manufacturer.
So you as the responsible person, because your name's on the label, you would need to do this listing, or you could delegate it to your manufacturer if the manufacturer is offered to do the product listings for you. That's something that you would do through contract. And my suggestion would be that you then require that they provide you confirmation that the listing was completed and the cosmetic numbers that the FDA assigns once you're at that point.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. I've got more for you. Do you? If it gets too many throughout the presentation, we can wait till the end.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
I'll just ask you this next question. We are a third-party contract manufacturer. This is from Lillian. It is our customers that are exporting their products to the USA, not us. We make product and ship it to our customers, and they take over from there. We did request and receive an FEI number. Is it enough to just provide the FEI number to our customers?
No. As a facility, you have a legal obligation because you know your products are going into the US market. You have a legal obligation to register your facility.
Great. Thank you.
It's not difficult to register your facility. But there are going to be good manufacturing practices that are going to be adopted over the next 2 years. And you may end up with an FDA inspection. So keep that in mind. But your customers cannot lawfully sell the product in the United States unless you are registered. So it's important that you take that step. And the brands that you manufacture for, they could actually register your facility without you knowing. So if you're refusing, they might register for you. But that means since you're a foreign facility, they would also have to identify a US agent. You don't want somebody else doing that for you. You want to make sure you have a relationship with the US agent, because that US agent is acting as a liaison for communications between your foreign facility and the FDA. So
okay, great.
So the categories. So you see that they have the categories listed here. And when you press on the little plus button, it gives you the subcategories. And then some of them have some of these subcategories have additional subcategories. So let's say today that my superior lotion is intended for babies. But you know what? I'm also going to go down here to skin preparations and say I'm also making moisturizing claims. It's intended for moisturizing wherever you're going to put it on. Oh, and you know what? It's for bodies. And because it's so superior, it's also for faces. So I'm going to say it's moisturizing, it's leave-on for both face, body, and hand, and it's a lotion for babies. It's a lot of categories. Now, if it wasn't a lotion for babies, I'm not marketing it as that. Who cares if people decide to use it on their babies? But if I'm not marketing it as that, I don't need to put that. Maybe it's not for the face. I'm only marketing it for the body. Well, then I leave that off. And I just would say, okay, it's for the body and it's moisturizing. And I would leave it at that. Now, one of the discussions or questions that keeps coming up regarding the small business exemption is that category that we talked about in part one, that there's different categories for the small business exemption. And that was if it's an injectable or if it's intended to alter the appearance for 24 hours or more without being removed, or if it's through common usage, it routinely comes in contact with the mucous membrane of the eye. Now, I did email the FDA's, there's like a question and answer email that you can email questions to. It's available right on the FDA's MoCRA website, and asked, will the FDA be providing guidance on this? What kind of products does the FDA consider to be commonly come into contact with the mucous membrane of the eye? Does my eyeshadow count? Does my eyeliner that I only market to go on the outside of the eyelid, does that count? Does my mascara count? What about eye creams? Does that count? They did not respond. So unfortunately, I cannot provide any additional information than what is already on the FDA's website. I would anticipate that at some point in the future, they'll provide guidance. But at this point, one way to think about it is, and I don't know if this is an indication, but this is just how my brain works, is you notice that there's this eye makeup preparations category 3. And under that, there's eyebrow pencils. So eyebrow, not eyeliner, right? Now, does my eyebrow pencil come in contact with my mucous membrane of my eye? I guess if it's a really runny eyebrow pencil. I hope not. I'm not using that eyebrow pencil down into my eye. But it has eyeliners, eyeshadows, eye lotions. So that would be eye creams, eye makeup removers, false eyelashes. I'm sorry, my false eyelashes are not entering my eye unless I'm really clumsy at it. Mascara. Yeah, you know what? You get mascara in your eye pretty much every time you use it. So maybe that counts. Adhesive glues and sealants, eyelash eyebrow preparations like primers, conditioners, serums, and fortifiers. To me, I wouldn't think eyebrow, right? But if it's an eyelash serum, that probably does fall within that category. Or eye drops that are like moisturizing eye drops, I imagine would also fall within that category. And then it says other eye makeup preparations. So at this time, I wish I could say, straight up, look at if you fall within category 3, then it probably falls within that mucous membrane. But given these like eyebrow pencils and eyelash, fake eyelashes, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it works, right? So my suggestion would be, if you are marketing any products that are around the eye, keep an eye out for guidance from the FDA on it, or send the FDA that question. If they get that question from enough people, they will announce a guidance document to provide, some actual information that'll be helpful. Okay, so today, again, we've got our, where's that skincare preparation? Okay, so get skincare preparation, and I said it was moisturizing, and I said it's for my body and hand, and I just go up and I save my category. Now, it is important that the very first time that you do a product listing, that you get the categories correct. And because if you try to go in and amend your listing to correct the categories, it doesn't let you. I know this from experience.
Do you then have to just create a whole new listing for that product?
Well, I'm in the process of emailing the FDA to ask that it be corrected. And so far they've been a bit not particularly helpful at doing that correction. So, but I figure we have until July 1 to get it all worked out. But there is an email that you're able to email to do for them to do overrides. Okay, so now ingredients. Ingredients was the category that most companies were really like, oh my gosh, these product listings are going to take forever because of the ingredients. But you know what? It's actually pretty fast. So right here, you see it says download current ingredient list. Well, I don't have anything in here, right? Except for that fragrance that auto-populated because I had selected fragrance. So I'm going to say download the ingredient list. And that probably is not sharing, right? Right, don't see the share. So what it downloads is this Excel spreadsheet, which I'm not seeing. Where are you? All right, well, I'll just show you the one that I have. So, all right, is it showing the Excel spreadsheet that just says fragrance?
There's fragrance, yep.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I would take this and I would just, you want to use this Excel spreadsheet. You don't want to create one, right? Because it has the right formatting and so forth, but you can use this over and over again. So let's say I've got that, I've got
You're muted, Angela.
Angela, you muted yourself accidentally.
Thank you. Don't know how I did that. All right. So generally what I do is I copy from the spreadsheet my client's already given me. I drop it in, I save it on my computer, very simply. And, which I'm just going to say, so we're going to pretend that this lotion just has these 3 ingredients in it. Okay, formulators, don't come at me about this, right? And then I go back into my portal. Where are you? I go back into the portal. Are we back at the portal now?
We are, yes.
Okay. And I just will say, I'm going to upload. Oh, come here. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Hold on. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty on my
probes.
I think because I have it maximized, I'm not able to. Whoop, okay.
You're doing a great job. A lot of screens to jump between.
It is. Which when you're not trying to share a screen, it's super easy to do. But when you're not. So all right. So you can't see it, but I have my what is it called? My Finder, my folders thing open. And I'm just going to click it. I'm going to drag and drop right into it. So you see now it says cosmetic product ingredients.
Yeah, got it.
And I say, boom, upload. Voila.
Oh, wow.
That's it. I confirm. I know what I normally do is I say, okay, well, that Excel spreadsheet had 3 ingredients in it. Normally they're a lot longer. This one has, 3 ingredients, save ingredients. All right. And last thing to do, I'm going to add a facility. So, I don't know any facility numbers off the top of my head. I should have auto-populated this. But if I did I don't know, I just did one. First of all, I want to say, no, it's not a small business. If it is a small business, you would say yes. Like if you have a facility that you work with and they are small businesses and they're not going to be registering, you would put their name, you'd put their address, their city, their state, the zip code, and that's it. And then you would say save facility, but most of them are not, right? So we're just going to say yes. We would say yes. Now, oh, golly. Normally, I must have picked just the right amount of numbers on accident. Because the FEI numbers are they're either like 7 numbers or 11 numbers. So I must have, when I just very quickly typed, just happened to get the right number. And I would say, there you go. All right. Now, down here, it says product images. That is optional. So I never do it. We don't do it with my clients. I tell them not to. Again, why give extra that you don't have to? And then I would say save product. It might get, okay. Well, there you go. Let's say that was, now if I needed to do another product, I would just say add. I'd say, now, and let's pretend that this product is I don't know, an eyeshadow, and I have 50 shades. That's what I would do. I'd say 50 shades. There's no fragrance in it. So I'm going to say not applicable. I'll do my product categories just as we did before. Now for the ingredients, I would put the base formulas on my spreadsheet. I go the base formula first, and then you're not going to use the words may contain or anything like that. All you do is take every single shade, every color additive, and you would list it down, right? Straight down. Please understand that the United States does not use CI numbers. So when you do your ingredients, the CI numbers will not bring anything up. Right? But so when you upload, you're going to want to use the color. So let's say it's red number 7. And then in the United States, if it's being used in a cosmetic, it has to be a D&C red number 7, right? So with your colors, you're going to want to have the US names for the colors. That might be a little tricky. That's going to take some time on the front end, right? When you're planning this and stuff. And then like titanium, which has I believe it has a CI number elsewhere, but here in the United States, we call it titanium dioxide, right? So boom. And then if they're iron oxides, which there are plenty of different iron oxides, what I have been doing is, instead of looking them all up, is I just simply say iron oxides and I add it, because that covers all the different categories. Just because a UNII does not pop up, does not get populated, it still accepts it. So, and it will accept the listing. There could be a chance that the FDA will come back and say, hey, you need to actually provide the actual names. But at this point, iron oxides is what is used on the ingredient lists and here in the States for those ingredients. So I would just, save it.
I
Obviously,
just have a question.
Yes,
Angela, in regards to the fragrance or flavor, fragrance as in synthetic or using an essential oil scent? Is essential oils included here?
So in the United States, you have the option of either listing out your fragrance ingredients or identifying them in the aggregate simply as the word fragrance on your ingredient list. If you list the individual fragrance ingredients out on your ingredient list, then you would just list them out and you would say not applicable. But if you use the word fragrance on your ingredient list and you're not identifying those individual fragrance ingredients, then you would have to select fragrance.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so that's it. I would then say, so I'd say save product. This might not, well, I'm going to say delete just so I don't have to go back. It wants me to do the, do the category and do the FEI number and so forth. So I'm not going to do that. So now we would come in here and we would initially, let's say I'm all done. I've got my 100 products or my 50 products or whatever. Then I would come in and I would say save and validate. And what happens is that would then take us back to the my list of all the products that I've done. And it would say submitted for validation. The validation process takes, it depends on the time of day and how many people are doing it. It is an automated system that is not, it's not somebody at FDA checking, right? It's just the computer system saying, are all these spaces completed, and are all these spaces the correct thing? So if I had letters here, right, instead of my phone number, it would invalidate it and say it's not wrong. Once that comes back as being validated, so validation accepted or approved, then I would have to submit it. So I would say I have to do a confirmation statement that the information I provided is true and accurate. I'd put my date and I'd put my name. Now, an additional information that is optional, this is the one optional category that I do normally encourage companies to do, and that is an actual contact person. Oh, my private email coming up there. That's the actual person, like at the responsible party, who wants to be identified to be the person, the point of contact with the FDA. Or some of my clients ask that I be that person. And so I would just put, whatever information down here. I could do their email, their phone number, and their name and phone restriction. And then when it's time to submit, I just simply come back in and I say submit. And that is it. All right. So that is a product. That is a cosmetic product. I had one client with like 147 products. And if you're good with your keyboard strikes, your alt tabs and your, switch between windows and your Control C for copying and Control V for pasting, or maybe use something different in Australia, then you can get really fast at this. Like I can do a product listing as long as there's no glitches with the system in like under 3 minutes.
Oh, wow. That was going to be my question to you. How long does one product listing take? Okay.
Yeah, well, so because, the product listing, when I say product, it's this part, right? It's this putting in the information. So this part you can get, like, if you're really good with your keystrokes and flipping between windows and saving, dropping the information in that spreadsheet, saving, pressing Control S for save, and then going back into the thing and just dragging that file in. I mean, it's pretty quick, pretty quick process. So when I'm in the flow, it goes pretty fast. And so now there's some questions on the,
there's a few questions. Do you want to carry on with the with that, and we can ask at the end, or do you want to can you see those questions, Angela?
Yeah, why don't I go through them, and then because I will run through a quick facility. I'll just show if there's very many facility individuals on the line.
Great. Someone did ask here, are you able to go through the registration process for the FEI number? So is that one that you will go through?
Yeah, let me see. How far back?
It's from Lillian.
Third-party contractor.
Will
U.S. require GMP? Yes, the U.S. will be requiring GMP. Is it an obligation for small business to register a manufacturing facility outside the U.S.? No, it is not, unless you are manufacturing those particular categories of products, injectables, longer than 24 hours, a changeless appearance for more than 24 hours, and products that come within routinely come into contact with the mucous membrane of the eye. Is the ingredients name on the label have to reflect what you listing on the registration portal? It should, right? If you're selling in the United States, you should be using the nomenclature of the United States. So, which is not necessarily INCI. For example, INCI doesn't always list the common name of the botanical, but the United States requires that the common name of all botanicals be identified. And you can do a combination of an INCI where you have like the binomial name, and then maybe in parentheses the common botanical name, and then the part of the plant, and then what it is, an oil, an extract, or whatever. Now, the FDA has indicated that it wants that common name to be in front and then the binomial in parentheses, but it's not enforced. And most companies go with the INCI, that binomial name, and then the common and so forth. So the revenue cap is $1 million for 3 years. So somebody asked if the revenue cap for small businesses is $1 million annually. No, it's $1 million over the prior 3 years.
And the second part of that question was just for sales in the USA or for total brand sales globally? Just for USA sales.
Just for sales in the USA.
Okay.
Can a responsible person be a serviced office address that will refer any requested immediately to our Australian email? So I think you mean in general for the name and place of business statement?
Let's see, Anita, I'll allow your mic if you want to just explain further there. Oh, has that worked?
Yeah. Okay. I'll just turn off the sound. Sorry. Yeah. So can you have? So in terms of the name, and you need a responsible person that can be contacted. So we have a serviced office in the US who handle all our US information. Can they be the responsible person? Because the main thing is to be able to contact us if they need a dossier or something.
So the name, yes, you could do that if you wanted to.
Okay, good.
Yeah. The name and place of business requirement is supposed to be like the principal place of business, or the actual location of manufacturing.
Right. And so you have a website address which has a contact us on it.
Right.
You got the website. Yeah.
So when I'm talking about the address, you have two different requirements. You have the basic requirements under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, which requires the corporate name, right?
Yep.
The legal entity that's responsible for that brand. Sometimes it's the same thing, but the legal corporate name. So ABC Corp, Inc.,
Yeah.
right? And then you have to have their place of business. So that could be their principal place of business, or maybe it's a main subsidiary, like office area, or it could be the place that they actually manufacture the product. It just needs to not be misleading. So if there's a reason why you're identifying one city over another and you have no operations actually in that city, it's just a mail stop, is it there because you're trying to make people think that you are manufacturing in Sydney? Maybe that's I don't know, maybe there's some kind of marketing value to that. If that would be considered misleading, then you shouldn't use it. You should use your principal place of business. That happens here in the United States. There's some areas where it's like, oh, it's cool to be from Austin, or it's cool to be from New York City, but really you're in Arkansas or somewhere else. So you just want to make sure that the address that you're using, that it's truthful and it's not misleading. Now, that's the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act. And then you have your MoCRA requirements that'll go into effect at the end of this year. And that's the domestic address, domestic phone number, or the electronic contact information. That's separate from, it could be the same thing, but it is separate from the name and place of business requirement under the Fair Packaging Labeling Act. And in that instance, if you, for some reason, you have your corporate name with your normal business address, but then for some reason you want to put the U.S. address of a U.S. entity or a U.S. office that you maintain just for service, I don't see why there's no reason you couldn't. But just keep in mind, having that U.S. address, you need to make sure that your country of origin statement is right there, like U.S. address, boom, product of Australia or made in Australia.
Or made in Australia. You'd have to have anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, because you need to make sure it's not misleading. Yeah. And then the website address, that takes care of that domestic or web address requirement under MoCRA.
Right.
So
okay.
Hopefully that.
All right. Okay. Good. Thank you.
And then could you repeat the part about botanical ingredients? How about this? I will provide kind of a brief explanation in an email. Oh, actually, I see what you wrote. So lavendola. So this second one that you put in the chat, and if everyone wants to look at chat to see this, they put an example. They put in parentheses lavender, that's the common name, and then they put the binomial Lavandula augustifolia, and then they put the flower part, flower, or the plant part, flower, and then they said extract. So under what the FDA has said is they would take those parentheses and they would move it around the binomial. So the parentheses would be under the Lavandula augustifolia, while the lavender would just be by itself. Or you would have the Lavandula augustifolia. I'm sorry, I'm going to remove my parentheses hands. You'd say Lavandula augustifolia, parentheses, lavender, and then flower extract. That's what most companies do. The FDA has indicated they would prefer the reverse, but most companies do that second, the Lavandula augustifolia, parentheses, lavender, flower extract. And there's not going to be, it's such a low risk of regulatory enforcement. It's just, they're not going to do it. Plus, I'd say 90% of cosmetic companies go with that option because they're trying to put kind of that inky forward first so that they can comply with the other countries. And then they're putting that lavender in there to comply with the US. So you have it, pretty correct right there. And that is all the questions I see. So if we have time.
We do, yes.
Okay. So I am going to jump back into my, I'm actually going to delete my little Austrade listing, and I'm going to go in to, I know you can't see what I'm doing right now because I'm trying to get off my confidential stuff. Okay. Now I can share my screen again because I'm back to the non-confidential stuff. And facility. Okay.
We've got quite a bit of time, Angela. We've got another half hour or so.
Oh, do we? I thought we did this for an hour, so I just wasn't sure. So I'm like,
that's okay. All good.
Okay,
all
wonderful. Good. I can like breathe and slow down a little.
Yes,
I'm going to take a drink of water really quick.
Oh, you poor thing.
All right. Calm. All right. So this is what you will see when you click on that. Remember the first page down the left side of it, when you get into the portal, it goes down and it says the facility registration. That will take you into a window where you would then say new facility or upload. So you'd say the new facility, and then that would open this beautiful window. It looks just like the other one, right? Super easy. Again, you don't mess with this stuff. There are other, so let's say I was at my biennial renewal and I had no changes, then I would say abbreviated renewal. Or if I did have changes, I would say amendment. Or I would say, yeah, what's the difference between biennial renewal and abbreviated renewal? I don't know. I haven't seen it because I haven't done it yet. But I'm assuming it's abbreviated renewal probably means like, I don't know, maybe you have a phone number change, while an amendment is you really need to make a lot of changes. And then the biennial renewal is just, okay, I'm just renewing. I don't have any changes, just renewing. Or maybe you're closing business, then you would do a cancellation. But this is our first time, so we're just going to keep it at facility registration. You don't touch these things, right? Because we're just doing our first one. It auto-populated. This is our first version. We've got January 30th, because that's when I created this little draft. So only the ones with the stars are what are required. So you've got your facility name. So XYC Corp. Or XYC instead of Z. And then I've got, my little FEI number. And I'm going to say Australia. Ooh, no, there we go. And then I would put in my address, city, zip. I'd put in a phone number. I'd put in the name of the owner. So maybe it's show you my personal address now. Maybe it is a different company than the facility name. So maybe it's a parent company that's the actual owner, or maybe the facility name is, a DBA, and then I've got an individual. So, a lot of times these are just the same name. An email for a contact person there at the facility. And then here is where you would put your US agent information. And then we would need to go in and put our brand names. So this is where it gets a little slow, because when I say add brand name, so you'll see I already did a test, and I just said test, and I said, okay, these are I manufacture eyebrow pencils and eyeliners for this company. And let's say I also do, let's say I do an eye cream, right? Like, whoop. So on that, and maybe do an eye lotion, right? I'm just kind of picking all the things I think are within the category of my little pretend company, right? And I'm going to say save. So that saves, and you got this little, see it's going a little slow. Must be that time of day. Then I have to scroll back down, and now I need to add another brand, and I go through and do it all over again. And then I say save, and then it goes back, and then I have to do then my next brand. So that's just a little time consuming. It obviously isn't going to take a long time, But, if you have a brand that maybe you do 20 different categories that for, you're sitting there clicking every single one and then having to save and you're waiting for that little thing, it could take a minute per brand. All right. So that can be a little time consuming. So if you have, 500 brands, my suggestion would be maybe submitting that single document that I showed you in the PowerPoint presentation, which is available. I think I provided the URL where you can get that from. And then you would do a spreadsheet, that says, you'd say see attached, and you have a spreadsheet that just has those 3 categories. Very simple. Those 3 categories, that's it, right? So brand name, responsible person, categories. And you would want to use the categories that are provided in that list. And you can find those categories right from FDA's MoCRA page. So, yeah, and I saw there was a hand up.
Yeah, we've got Tina with her hand up. Let's see.
Let's see if there's questions.
There is a couple of questions also, but we'll just, Tina, is your mic? Allow mic. All right, Tina.
Thanks, Lizzie. Yeah, I still can't use the chat. I just have a question. At the moment, under the $1 million over 3 years, we would be classified as a small business. I believe that next year, we will no longer be classified as the under million over 3 years. So right now I could register and say I'm doing it optionally as a small business. Then what happens in a year's time? What do I have to do then?
Well, you would already be registered, so you wouldn't have to do anything in a year's time. But at your biennial renewal, so in 2 years' time, you would just update that. And in that, here, let me just share again. In that window where it said, so right here, is this a facility registration for a small business? So optional registration. When you went to do your biennial renewal, you would say no. Oops. Okay. And that would be your update.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got some questions in the chat here as well. Angela, can you see the chat there, or would you like me to?
Yeah, I should be able to. Let me see. Oh, I didn't. I think I missed one question. I'm going to cover that. So can the listings of cosmetics be done by a business outside the United States? Yes. You could sit in your office in Australia and do it. I could go for a vacation in Australia and do it. You want to invite me over?
Come on over. We'll take you.
Okay.
Another question here from Sheridan. Just to clarify, does small business exemption mean that you don't need to submit product listings to MoCRA Portal?
Correct. As long as you qualify as a small business, so you don't sell any of those products within those various categories.
Okay. And does small business need a responsible person?
Well, you are the responsible person.
Okay.
Yeah, the small business, if your name is on the label, you are the responsible person. It's not someone different than you.
Okay.
And then, including Australian address and the U.S. distributor are both required. No, if you are ultimately the entity, you, the Australian person, the Australian company, is ultimately responsible for the distributing, and you're taking on, if there's any complaints, and you're the one that the complaints are coming to, and you're the one doing the investigation, and you're the one that's responding to U.S. consumers, well, then you're the responsible person. You don't need to identify your U.S. distributor, right? You wouldn't identify UNFI or KE or any of those, big distributors on your label. They just happen to be handling the logistics of getting your product to market. Now, if you were actually partnering with a U.S. entity, and that U.S. entity is taking on the responsibility, of everything, of all that, then yes, you could include the U.S. distributor's name and contact information on the label instead of yours. But and it would say distributed by in that entity name. But in my experience, most foreign companies don't necessarily want to do that unless for some reason they have a U.S. arm that they are controlling, right? Then they would name their U.S. arm of their company as the distributor, but they wouldn't necessarily include the parent company back in Australia on the label, though some companies do. What does that mean when you're importing on declaration forms, etc.? I'm not sure in what reference that question is to. So Megan, if you'd like to take yourself off mute and ask the question so that we can get a little clarification, that would be great.
I'll have to try. Let me just jump down here to Megan and allow mic. All right. I think you're able to talk now.
Thank you. Just with the small business exception, what does that mean when you're importing products into the US? So say it's going through customs. So when I import to the UK, for instance, I need to declare who my responsible person is and give all of that information. So is there like a tick box or something that you just say, look, we're a small business, we don't have to provide this information?
So in the United States, the term responsible person is different than the UK. So in the UK, you have to have a responsible person who's physically located in the UK. That's why you have to provide that information for the UK. In the United States, there's no such requirement. So it's not like you would have to identify someone other than yourself.
Okay, great. So when we are importing or sending products into the States, we don't have to provide any of this information, and there's no checkpoint for them to basically be like, you're a small business or you're not a small business.
They haven't really announced how they're going to be handling this at customs. When you're going through customs, there is a chance that they could do an inspection and look, maybe they look up in the portal, like, okay, let's look up, is this company registered? I imagine that they will at some point start doing that type of cross-checking to make sure, just like they do with like reviewing ingredient lists or reviewing claims to see if a product is misbranded or using color additives that are not authorized for use in the United States, or being used for a way that a manner that's not approved, like maybe it's a red that's being used on the eyes or something for eyeshadow. So you would not. So there is a possibility, right, that they're going to do that cross-checking. At this point, we don't know what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be confirming compliance with this. I would imagine that if it was like, are you registered? Like maybe there's going to be a question, are you registered? Or, are you registered? Is your facility registered? Or is your manufacturer's facility registered? Are these products listed? Maybe there's a yes or no box. And if they did that, then I would assume that they would also provide or are you a small business, exempt from registration.
And to qualify for that, are you a small business? My assumption would be that they would be basing it off your US tax records for the amount of revenue in that period. Like, how do you qualify that?
I'm not sure how they're going to do that. They haven't provided that information. I mean, that would make sense, right? That they would do it off the records. At this point, it's not like you're having to submit anything. And so if a product was, they stopped a product and asked that question and you said, well, we're a small business. I mean, I suppose they could then say, well, please provide us confirmation that you qualify as a small business. Maybe they would do that. It would make sense too, right? Or maybe they take your word for it. We just don't know at this point. There hasn't been provided any kind of announcements for how they're doing the enforcement of this.
Right. And that's good to know. And any information that you have as more information comes to light is amazing. I think for us as a small business, sending, pallets or lots of stock to the States takes, 2 months, right? And it's a heavy investment. The last thing you want is a hold up at customs or for the stock not to be accepted and then either sent back or disposed of. So ensuring that we're doing everything and being as compliant as possible to protect and to mitigate that is hugely important.
Certainly. There's a question regarding, can I clarify the purpose responsibility of the U.S. agent for foreign facilities? So the U.S. agent is simply a person that the FDA can correspond with to make sure that correspondence gets to the facility. The FDA agents, they work, 9 to 5 or whatever. They work an 8-hour day. They're federal employees who work a nice 40-hour week, unless they're authorized for overtime. And so, they're only available that window. And if they're trying to contact facilities all around the world, well, sometimes, that doesn't work. 9 to 5 doesn't work. I had meetings at 10 o'clock at night with companies in China recently. So, it just doesn't work. So that U.S. agent is within our time zones, Pacific, Central, Mountain, and Eastern time zones of the United States, so that the FDA can communicate with them as needed. That is it. That is what the U.S. agent does. They're just a liaison for communications. So if the FDA was like, okay, we want to inspect this facility, but they want to make sure that they're showing up on a day that they're going to be available to get in, because they do generally actually schedule inspections rather than just show up at the door, especially for foreign. They do have relationships with inspectors that are not, or they have contracts with inspectors all over the world, but they like to make sure that, okay, the facility operates between these hours, and they want to make sure that inspector shows up during those hours rather than showing up, an hour early or 2 hours late or what have you, or a day that you're just not operating. So it's really just this liaison for communications. You generally do not authorize them to bind you into any agreements, or to even tell the FDA anything without your authorization. So this U.S. agent should be somebody that you trust, that is going to get the communications, be able to convey them to you in your tongue, right? Make sure that there's you can speak the same language. Obviously, here I'm speaking English, you guys speak, English, you have a different accent than me, and I have a different accent than you, but we're still speaking the same thing. But, if it's a facility that, everyone only speaks Chinese, you're going to want to make sure that your U.S. agent is fluent in Chinese, so that you can have open dialogues without having to worry about, communication errors. I'm not saying it's mandatory that you have someone that speaks your same language, but, I don't know. I would think if I was a facility, that's something I would want to make sure of, that I have a good line of communication, without having to worry about mistranslations. So
certainly makes life easier.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it for the questions for now. If you want to carry on there.
Yeah, and let's see, what did I say I was going to, if we had time, I would pull up
the DUNS.
The DUNS. Okay, let's do that. So I'm sharing my screen. I'm just going to say DUNS. Oh, you know what? Get a DUNS number. That's what I want to do. Get a DUNS. There we go. So get a DUNS today. Easy as that. See up here, and I'm going to give a little trick here. See this where it says only $229. Get started. Ignore that. It's free. Don't click that button. Go down here and just say, get a free DUNS. They like to put it down at the bottom. I wonder how many companies pay $229 to get this number when it's actually free. So you click free. Got it. And then you will how do I get a DUNS? Do I look up a DUNS? Okay, come on, where are you? Usually it's super. Really? Come on. It's in here somewhere. I don't know why I'm not seeing the link. That is weird. There's usually just a click here. Learn more. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I'll agree and proceed. Okay, here we go. Step 1. It says I have a US-based business. I have a Canada-based business. Here it is. I need a UFI to register with the FDA. Right? And then, so I would come down here. I need a UFI to register with the FDA. I would put my email address. I'd submit it. They would email you. Well, I'll just put my email address. Let's see what happens. I'm like kind of nervous, like, what's it going to do? It's thinking. But anyways, you see how easy it is. You just, that's it. That's how you do it. Oh, there we go. I submit. So I'm putting the name, I put company name, what my title is, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And then I press submit. I think there might be one more page. It's been a few years since I did a DUNS for my own prior firm, where you say like what kind of business that you're in. You submit it. It does take, I don't know, it takes about a week. That's it. It's
Fantastic.
not a long process.
So easy.
Yep, that's it. Let's see, was there anything else I said I was going to cover if we had time today?
Well, in relation to the DUNS number, so we have a question. So do cosmetic companies all now need a DUNS number in addition to an FEI number?
I don't believe so. Let's go back to, I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to go back to the presentation because I listed exactly what you would, Windows. Is that the right one? Yes. Okay. I take it we can see,
Yes.
right? Okay. So for the FEI, this is the information that you're providing. You are doing your legal name. Are you representing the firm as an agent? Alternative firm names, physical address, mailing address, name and contact information for designated person at the facility being registered, comprehensive list of activities. So that would be if you only did cosmetic manufacturing, you would put cosmetic manufacturing. Any registration associated with other FDA centers, former names that the firm was known by, previous address. So it doesn't look like it even requires a DUNS. My understanding is that a DUNS number is only required for drug establishments. Yeah, because when you register for a drug establishment, you don't register with your FEI number, you register with your DUNS number. But you will recall that when we did the, when we went into the facility registration, I'm gonna share the facility registration, which is, oh, there you are. Okay, when we went into the facility registration, FEI number was required, but the DUNS number right here was an optional element.
Yeah. Got it.
You don't even need it.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any other questions. AJ or Millie, was there anything else that you would like to cover off or anything? I can't think of anything else Angela said she was going to cover off, but if there was something I've missed. No.
No, I think, got it all.
Okay. There is one thing I did want to, I had hoped to find some time to add a couple slides on this topic in case we could talk about it. Since we do have a couple minutes, I want to mention that there are some new recycling labeling rules that are going into effect as of this next year that you should be aware of. There's one in California. I suggest that you do a Google search for SB, so Senate Bill 54, Cal Recycle, and look at their website. There is also a new
SB 54 Cal Recycle.
Yep.
CAL.
Yeah, CAL and then the word recycle. And you'll find on Cal Recycle has a nice webpage that provides a beautiful summary for you. There is also provider responsibility organization registration requirements now for packaging and plastics that apply to cosmetics. The ones to be to take a look at right now, because you've actually missed the deadline, if you're not aware of it, is if you are responsible for sending products into the state of Washington. Not Washington, D.C., but the state of Washington. And that is, what is the, brain just went blank on what it's called. It is, and I apologize. I really hoped I just had a crazy busy week and haven't had a chance to barely do anything. So let me just pull it up really quick. It is okay. It's Washington plastic reporting is a Google term that you could easily use for that. And that is the Department of Ecology in Washington. And it is, I want to say, okay, fine. I'm just going to do a quick Google search because I'm just not finding it where I wanted to find it.
And Angela, if you want to send through a couple of lines about this to me or to AJ or Millie afterwards, we can always share these links and things with guests also when we send out your presentation slides.
Okay, I'm actually going to copy this and put it right into the chat for us all.
Fabulous.
There we go. So under Washington's rule, which is this, it's ran by the Department of Ecology out of Washington, you have to register with the state of Washington. Okay. And then if you're responsible for selling products into that state, it could be that your retailers are the ones that are responsible for doing the reporting. But if you are selling products into the state of Washington at a high number, then you need to make sure that this is getting reported to the state of Washington. Some retailers are pushing it back to their suppliers to confirm that you've actually done this registration. And registration was actually started in 2022, and there are fees to be paid based on the amount of tons of plastic that you are sending into the state. And then there are PRO reporting requirements that pertain to, it's actually a third-party PRO, and it's called Circular Action Alliance. I'm bringing them up. And I'm going to share this website so you can learn a little bit more. They are the approved PRO in California and Colorado, I believe, and Maine. So there's a couple different states that this is applicable to, and there is a deadline of this year in July that you have to have registered with a PRO in a couple of the states. So the only PRO currently that has been approved in various states is this particular one, and I'm going to share that right now in the in the chats as well, so that everyone is familiar with it. There you go. These are topics that have just kind of really recently come up that clients have started asking me about, and then I've been like attending these meetings and listening in on the new recycling rules and logos and so forth. And so I just wanted to make sure I just kind of got it out there since the deadlines are coming pretty soon, because I think there hasn't been really enough industry outreach on these topics yet. So, and what about if we're selling direct to consumer? Do we need to report? Under the law of each, there are like small business exemptions. So if you, I don't know it off the top of my head, right? Those are kind of questions my clients ask me to look up. So, but you'll just want to go in and you'll want to look at, well, what's a small business considered? Because it is based on like the amount of tons, the weight of tons of the packaging or plastics, the various categories that qualify under these laws. Of whether you meet those requirements. So if you're below that threshold, you're considered a de minimis business entity. That would not necessarily have to register, but that it varies from state to state. So, this is why it's so important to have U.S. counsel that's familiar with these things, whether it's, me or someone else, not to do a plug, but, why not? But anyways, exactly. That's kind of all I have today. So thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it. Your team is wonderful there at State of Victoria and at Austrade. So thank you so much to AJ and Mildred and Elizabeth for organizing this.
Thank you, Angela, for sharing all of your knowledge. I mean, you've covered off so much today, and we're all very grateful. I'm sure you'll be receiving a lot of emails with questions for you, or or companies wanting to engage you. You're obviously a wealth of knowledge and, you know, an expert in the field. So thank you very much. AJ, Millie, if you want to add your 2 bobs worth.
Yeah. Angela, it was incredible. Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, AJ, I'm going to make sure I'm going to send you, I think I mentioned it during part 1 of the webinar, the spreadsheet that I created that I give to clients to put in the information, because it really does make this process so much faster when all the needed information is right at your fingertips in one little spot. And so I will forward that to you so that you can share it, you know, with your constituents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to send it to us.
Of course. All right. Thank you, team. And thank you, everyone, for attending today as well. Much appreciated.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.